inner spiritual strength. What does that have to do with the full moon in Capricorn that's happening here on July 10th or 11th in other parts of the world down under? It happens at 1:36 p.m., 18 degrees Capricorn, inner spiritual strength. The sun being in the cardinal emotional sign of Cancer, which deals with family, emotional processing and content, how we feed each other, how we nurture, the past, memories, family, home, ancestry, right? And everything we do within that container. Moon in 18 degrees Capricorn on the other side. What we do in the outside world, what we build, what we stand upon, what we become the authority on, the rules and structures that are supposedly guided and that we must adhere to. And both those signs, Cancer and Capricorn, have a thing in common. Two, they do things for safety and security, home and outwardly in the world. And they somehow try to find a balance. Now, what does inner spiritual strength have to do with this? It is my way of looking at the full moon, because the moon in Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn. So we will go look at the chart to see where Saturn is. And as many of you know, Saturn currently is in the sign of Aries right now at the very beginning. And it also has a partner with it, Neptune, the spiritual seeker, the planet of illusion, of dreams, of creativity, spirituality. That planet Neptune is connected with the Saturn in Aries, which is currently on a restructuring, a reevaluation, because that's what Saturn does. Saturn wants to find out what the cracks are in the pillars and foundations of wherever it is, and plays daddy and says, you must do this, or you must adhere to these temporary rule sets and build something slowly. And Aries they're starting to encounter this, and they're like, they don't like to do things slowly. They want to do it impulsively and fast. And so Saturn's there to reconstruct their lives for the next 2.5 years. So Neptune and Saturn in Aries are the ruler of this Capricorn full moon. And so inner spiritual strength and courage is the Saturn and Neptune story in Aries. And that's what is fueling the full moon, and what the full moon's, I think, exposing. Full moon, in a sense, is bright and exposes what's in the shadows. And I think it's here where we have to understand, in the Aries part of our chart, the spiritual quests that we are embarking on briefly this year and for the next 2.5 years. Aries stands alone. It's about the will and fire and its way of initiating oneself in the world. And if Saturn is asking for a restructuring there's a temporary or different rule set that Aries has to adhere to here in the future. But Neptune is there, and I think it's a spiritual adhering to, or reworking, or exploring. So Saturn does build strength in the end, and something stable for us to stand upon in the Aries part of your chart, and spiritual Neptune, hence the combination. Now, what does this mean on a deeper level? I think the sign of Cancer and Capricorn, when we're dealing with safety and security, if we look in our immediate surroundings, what that means to us, right? But what it actually is showing up in the world, community, state, country, province, the world. Have you noticed here a story that's been building about there's certain factions of people that are trying to adhere to an old structure and the rules and so on and so forth that support that structure, right? They don't want to give up on something. And there are those who want something different, or they want to change the rules, right? That's there. And they're all coming from their, in a sense, ethical, spiritual code with it all. And so hence you have conflict. You see it here in the United States with the saying, "Make America Great Again." You see it in other parts of the world when we're dealing with borders and non-borders and wars and rules and the breaking of regulations. And we even see it within old traditional economic structures and new ones dealing with tech, new tech infrastructure that wants to change the rules. And all this goes back to where one stands on their plot of land with their crew and their tribe and their family, and the rules and the values that they've created for each other, and then how that deals with other people's rules. And hence you see conflict, debate, etc. You know, where does one go from a place like this, right? So for you personally, that spiritual quest in the Aries part of your chart, you have to look at that and know that's the beginning of a story and a quest that we're going to do and you're going to do in your place of family, or what brings security in the outside world. And you have to see if your code or what you're building is aligned to that. And you might see conflict there, and we'll see more conflict there. But we have to at least get to a place of like, well, where do I stand? What do I believe in? And am I adhering to it for myself, right? So this contrast is a map, in a sense, I think, for the next 6 years in the world. And my reasoning is, 2 days before this full moon, Uranus enters Gemini. And you probably found me by watching a Uranus and Gemini question video, right? Uranus and Gemini makes an aspect, a connection to Saturn and Neptune in this full moon chart. And on another place, so does Pluto and Aquarius. The big heavy hitters of the astrological world, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, they're connected to Saturn here, right? And they will be for the next 6 years. So, in a sense, the ingenuity and the transformation story that happens for a long time in Pluto and Aquarius, the surprise, the reinvention, the rabble-rouser of Uranus and Gemini are putting their influence and touching Saturn and Neptune in this full moon chart. And since Saturn and Neptune rule the full moon, and we know the full moon and in Capricorn is connected to Cancer, it's the stories of safety and security inwardly and outwardly. They're up till being looked at and they're exposed. So you have to put yourself in the place to see where you stand in your home, family, and the alignment and the values there, or outside of community, your workplace, country, province, right? It's a gut check. I'll give you a little bit of a hint here of a way to understand it this week. And it actually has to do with Mars and Virgo currently in the sky. Like, well, what the hell does Mars and Virgo have to do with any of this? Well, Mars traditionally is the planet that rules Aries. So besides Aries, Saturn, Neptune spiritual understanding and trip that they're starting here, right? And having to go inward to see where they align with themselves and then the outside world, Mars rules that Saturn and Neptune and Aries in this full moon. And Mars in Virgo brings criticalness. It brings detail and analyzation. It knows systems very well and sees where in the systems, and let's say some of those systems happen to be your day-by-day daily activities, or how you serve yourself, or how you serve a project or work that you do. These little things of chop wood, carry water. Mars in Virgo here brings us discernment, right? And so besides the inner meditation that I'm talking about, the Mars in Virgo can branch the inner code with the external, and that's where we go. We look to Mars in Virgo to help us out, like, hey, I'm gonna write a to-do list, or I'm gonna write a priority list. What is my spiritual code, or the values that I stand upon, let's say, right? And we could look to the Aries part of our chart, let's say, what is it, and what do I want in this quest here for the next couple of years with Saturn and Neptune there, right? And then, at the same time, Mars in Virgo is like, we're gonna do the list, we're gonna journal it, or we're gonna use Notion or whatever apps that you're doing to do your mapping of this that Virgo does so well. And at the same time, it's like, well, does it align externally, right? And does it give me a sense of like stability and still align with my code? And so Mars here, in a sense, is sort of branching the two, right? And can. So if you're looking for help on this full moon, that's the way I would look at it. And it doesn't mean that you have to make any decisions too at this time, right? Especially with planets and signs that are dealing with deeply rooted structures and what is to come our way on planet Earth. This seems like one has to make a decision immediately. But this is, I think, in the end, an observance inwardly and outwardly to see where you stand, right? I want to give you some important dates here in the next month, and in the sense they're degrees. Since this full moon is happening at 18 degrees Capricorn cardinal, I'm like, well, I know Jupiter is in Cancer right now, and it currently in this chart is at 7 degrees, which goes, oh, that means Jupiter at some point is gonna hit 18 degrees where the full moon is, right? And I also know coming down the line here that once Venus goes through Gemini, which I wish would never end, but once Venus goes into Cancer, that means it's gonna hit this 18 degree mark, and it's gonna happen soon. So when we get to mid-August, And the week of August 12th is such a huge week for the Cancer Capricorn story. And the reason is because there will be a conjunction between Jupiter in Cancer and Venus in Cancer at 14 degrees. And then after that happens, within the next week, Venus will touch 18 degrees, right? Which is where this full moon is. And then on September 1st, Jupiter will then have finally touched 18 degrees of Cancer and of Capricorn. And so I think this full moon will be even showing us more even after it's done. Again, look to the cardinal places of your chart. If you have specific planets or placements there between 16, 17, 18, 19 degrees cardinal. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. All the signs that start the season. And that's why we call them cardinal, because cardinal initiates, right? All right, so there's my quick thing, my quick version of all this. I hope you appreciated some of my thoughts here about like home and country or within, and we just see it. It's just wild right now. Again, I think we have to always remember we define ourselves, yourself, your world, your space. We define our autonomy. And a lot of times the outside world will challenge your autonomy. But in order to know the limits, know where you can go or from within and outwardly, we have to establish and understand our own autonomy. So this week, if you need something to ponder, and for those who watch my channel know I've been talking about this for 2 years now, about the Pluto and Aquarius story, right? And now it's kicking in with Uranus and Gemini, is to understand your autonomous, sovereign place that you stand. And it is there that it's clear that no matter how hard it is out there, how wild it is, how crazy, how depressing it could be, whatever, that you know where you stand. And where you stand is your safety place, and it is most importantly, the place for you to be you. You owe it to you to do what you want to do. And in that sovereign place lies your core, your heart, your brain, and when it's aligned is when you create. And creation, to me, and it's the basis of my channel, creation is at the heart of everything. No one could take that away from you. And from creation and autonomy brings new ideas, new visions, and your spirit can flourish. Will it be challenging? Yes, it already has been. Will the next 6 years in the world and the United States, some other place? Oh yeah, it's only gonna get crazier. That's why you need to find your autonomous place for you to stand in so you can handle things, right? Anyway, that's a little side note here at the end. If you're new here and you made it this far, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. I want to thank my channel members, YouTube channel members, paid, and my paid Patreon members who support what I'm doing and are actually fueling my astrological journey on YouTube and my one-on-one practices. I'll be traveling soon, hopefully. I will let everybody know about the details of that. And on that note, I'm done, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of this day and ponder where I stand in the world and what I will do next.